Are we saying good morning?
I was just thinking that.
Does freak me out now because it looks
That's a
like,
great way to start, though. Good morning, everybody.
yeah.
I'm taking the
I
introduction
think we
today.
are saying good morning, even though, Joe just pointed out that it does look like I'm sat in, yeah, late afternoon. Um, in fact, Joe said it's about time to go to the pub. Like even for me, it's 10 past 8 in the morning, so it's slightly too early. But yes, we're all kind of more or less on a similar time zone now. And yeah, it's still a bit cold outside. But so Joe, tell us. So you had test week last week, which we were just having a little chat about, and I think so. What I'm interested by is what you said about your Substack that you just got like a massive bump in readership, and I'm curious, like why that might be. Is it like prurient interest in your test data? Is it that thing where we there's a lot of sports that we might watch on the TV and we think we admire the level of the athletes. Um, but golfing and cycling, it does beg comparison with sort of weekend warriors. You could watch them golf and you think, oh yeah, I once hit a shot like that. Well, like we wouldn't do it every shot. Or we could look and say, oh yeah, I've had like a bit of a moment last week. My training's going really well. I wonder what my power data is compared to Joe's. So like, what is it for? Like, what do you think it's all about?
I think cycling has always been it's always a data-driven sport for one. And with Strava, everyone's always doing what people call Strava stalking and seeing what people are doing on local segments or whatever. But I mean, firstly, I quite purposefully wrote the article in a clickbaity manner, like because I knew people are nosy. But I think with my situation, having been on the teams I've been on previously and having raced the level I am, I think a lot of people are trying they look at it and go, "Wow, is he really good or really bad?" And there's that little bit of nosiness there. Um, but no, I do think there's just inherent nosiness. Like I'll be sitting on this couch sometimes watching a race on TV. I'll see one of my friends in the breakaway and I'll nip back on Strava and see what they did in the last training session. So it does happen all the time. And when somebody quite publicly says, "Hey, here's my power testing results," usually you go and have a quick nose. But I was shocked. I was saying before, usually from Instagram, I get maybe 10 or 12 people go to my Substack. Most of my
Mm.
views come through Substack itself. But this time I had just shy of 200 people click through from my Instagram to my Substack, and even just a little opening sentence I wrote, which was like, "Hey, if you're nosy, please subscribe as well, like as the payback for being nosy." And there was something like 25 or 28 new subscribers just based off that, which was to me mind-boggling. And I think it shows that humans, and especially athletes, are just nosy so-and-sos, and if you give them data, they will compare. So it's a good little market research, if anything.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, I'm curious about the comparison. Like, how helpful do you think it is? I mean, you said you do it as well. Like you would see somebody performing and think, oh, I wonder, like, where are they at? How
So
helpful
I
is it?
I do it out of pure intrigue. It's usually there's maybe four or five people in the world I go have a nose at. Um, Usually people I know personally. Just have a quick look, like, hey, what's going on? And there's one person who's much, much better than me, but I've known since he was probably 15, 16. And I'm like, wow, this is always just like to marvel at how impressive it is. But I think comparison, I actually wrote in the article, what does this mean to you reading it? Absolutely nothing. If anything, it's a waste of time you reading this. It means nothing to anybody apart from myself because it's not even, we didn't do, okay, we did do a max out 5 minute test, but it was lactate testing. So it was looking where I personally was. It wasn't raw power data, well, it was, but it was basically looking at how my body reacts to these powers.
Yeah,
So to anyone else, it's a waste of time them reading it, apart from being a little bit nosy. To me, it's vital information. Changes how I train, changes my training zones, my thresholds. But to everyone else, it is pointless. And maybe I don't know. Maybe somebody looks and goes, "Oh, I'm further behind Joe." Maybe you are, but maybe you're also prepping for a race in August. Or
yeah,
maybe somebody looks and goes, "Oh, I'm way ahead of Joe." Maybe you are, maybe you're prepping for a race in March, and it doesn't really matter.
It's
And
contextual. What you're saying is it's contextual.
exactly.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think if you are looking at my data and going like either wow or oh no, he's not very good, it's say put it into perspective both ways. It's if you're say a second or a third cat racer, I've managed to say I can train pretty much full time. I did 105 hours on the bike in January, so obviously I'm gonna be much further ahead than someone who has a 9 till 5. Just
Yeah.
obviously hours on the bike. Equally, if you're world tour, I probably won't be as quite far ahead because I still have to do other stuff. So it's just finding perspective, and I think for myself as well, my key target for the year is consistency. So I don't want to be absolutely flying in February or January and then be on my hands and knees by May. So, for example, the week before my testing, I completely knocked off. I took about 8 days, not off the bike, but I did 8 hours of training in the week. Whereas normally I'm doing 18 plus, 20 plus. My average training week before my rest week was 24 hours plus for the 7 weeks before that. So I think not being afraid to take a couple of steps back to ideally take a few steps forward as well. But no, comparison is an absolute fool's game. Whether
Yeah.
we're talking power data, contract numbers, it's stupid.
Um, yeah, I kind of want to relate it actually to personal performance, like not just like athletic performance, but like where we've got to in life. We do some work with young people, and it's a big problem, like the endless comparison. And yeah, I don't want to sound like an old person railing against social media, but the way we consume information today invites constant comparison, self versus others. And I think it's easy to understand when you're thinking about the data that you were collecting last week is really contextual. It's your training. I think it's harder when it's softer data, when we're just like making comparisons about where we are in life or like how happy or how successful and stuff like that. But I think it's equally unhelpful. Like I think it's as contextual, um, and it's a really important message to people. Like it is a fool's game.
I
We
think
just need to focus on our own stuff.
I was talking about this recently with my girlfriend's coach as well, who's quite a renowned, like world-renowned coach, and we were saying the same. And it happens in bubbles quite a lot. So I'm based in Girona. Girona's not the real world. It is the most bubbly bubble of bubbles. Like it's more bubbly than what I imagine Silicon Valley is. And just because someone who lives 5 doors down from you is training better at the minute doesn't really mean anything. And you've got to kind of contextualize it outside of your very, very close circle as well, which I
Yeah,
think is important to remember. Like, I don't know, maybe you've got a new product which your whole bubble thinks is the hottest thing in the world, but out of it, nobody thinks anything of. Equally, maybe everyone in Girona thinks you're amazing or you're awful at bike riding, but outside of it, nobody really cares, as harsh as it sounds.
yeah, yeah. Um, Nice. So it's making me think about, and we're definitely going to talk about this today. So, but I like the connection between contextualizing or sort of breaking out of your bubble. And one way that we can do that, of course, is we have individual goals. And I know we talk a lot about performance and not results, but that's not to say that we can't have very, very clear goals. And because the goals are personal, I think that provides context, right? I mean, the training is towards the personal goals that you've set. And we wanted to talk about your goal setting, like the process you've gone through. Um, you don't have to share like what the goals are, but I'm just curious about the process you've gone through. I like what you said about consistency being a goal this season. So, like, jump off from there for us.
Yeah, so I've kind of split it into performance goals, as in be consistent, do X power, do less than 20 race days a year. I think I said a few things which I'm fully in control of myself because it's important to have those as well. Equally be consistent with my Substack. A few off-bike goals because not everything in my life is related to riding a bike. Well, it kind of is, but anyway, I digress. And then equally, I do still have outcome goals because I'm an athlete and I need to have outcome goals. If not, you could argue I don't, and it just needs to be perform the best. But that's in the ideal world, and my brain doesn't work like that. Every time I put a number on. It's racing to win, not racing to have the best performance. So
Yeah.
I do still have outcome goals as well.
What's
What
the
they are.
connection between the two? Like, so what I'm thinking is, and so in the world that John and I spend most of our time in, we would talk to people a lot about lead indicators versus lag indicators. So a lagging indicator is like, I want to finish podium at this race. You have to go and do the race, and you either get podium or you don't. You can't do it again. It's finished. The indicator was like after the fact. But lead indicators, that's the stuff you might be measuring, like the number of sort of training hours, lactate measurements. I mean, that's kind of their lead indicators. And how do you connect the performance goals with the outcome goals?
I'd say it's difficult because there's so many things which go into performance. For example, I could be the best rider there, or okay, better example, Tadej Pogacar, best bike rider in the world at the minute. We could race one on one, and I could beat him if he punches. He's a better performer than me, but on the day, I had the look or whatever. And I think how my brain works is as long as I've done everything right and I know I'm well prepared, then that's how I know I'm happy going into the race. And most of my things just come around being preparation and confidence through preparation. And if I'm confident, then I usually perform well. But it's so difficult because it is multifaceted. I think I was just thinking when you were saying it's almost in the business world, it feels, correct me if I'm wrong, you could have the best product in the world, but if you can't sell it, it doesn't matter to a degree. And I'm wondering if it's that sort of similar. It's like you can build yourself up to be the best athlete in the world, but if you can't perform on race day, it doesn't really matter. So there is a big, you've still got to perform. And if you say I have race day nerves and I'm awful on race day, it's probably not the job for me, which is, again, it's brutal, but like elite sport isn't always friendly.
Yeah, I think the parallels are good. Like, I think elite business is definitely not a friendly environment, especially, sort of sales leadership environments can be, yeah, they don't suit every individual. Um, like, tell me about sort of confidence. Like, I think what I was hearing was you saying that preparation, like the stuff you measure during preparation, you're gathering evidence that leads to confidence. Is that a fair?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I take a lot of confidence, maybe too much confidence sometimes through my power data. Just, I know if I'm on, like if I'm on, there's not that many people in the world I race in now. If you compare me to the World Tour guys, there's still an awful lot of people who have got much better data than I have. But in the world I'm racing in now, when I'm on, there's very few people, maybe 10, who are better than me where I'm on, like on climbs or whatever. But equally, they're a lot better than me going down the hills. So, like, say the mountain bikers, I can outclimb them, but they can go faster than me downhill. So, while I do take an awful lot of confidence from knowing I can do 6 watts per kilo for however long, I take a lack of confidence if I see a long descent mid race, a long technical descent. That scares me a little bit. I want to say scares, but that's dumbs down my confidence. So it works both sides. But no, I'll look at power data and go, right, you've got to be really, really bloody good, Nick, to beat me because, or to drop me, I suppose is a better way of putting it. Because if I'm doing whatever up this climb, you're going to be doing an awful lot more. And if you can do those numbers, you'd probably be in the World Tour racing the Tour de France. So I think if I just take confidence from being the best athlete I can, and then there's still an awful lot of other parts of the puzzle to figure out, tactics, descending, equipment choice. But the things I can control, I like to be I suppose I like to be in control of it, and I also like to know that I am the best athlete I can be. So I'm not looking back and going, "Oh, if only I'd have done this in January."
Yeah.
Like, make sure you do everything you can in January, February, in the preparation phase.
Do you find that you're able to kind of reflect on the outcomes and sort of look at them and say, well, there are these instances where the outcome was what I was looking for, or perhaps even better, but I went into the race lacking confidence because the power numbers weren't where they should be. So actually, okay, into this next race, my power numbers aren't where I want them to be, but that's okay because I'm still confident because of that past outcome. Or is it kind of very much a case of no, I'm driven by this one set of metrics. If they're good, I'm confident. If they're not where they need to be, I'm lacking confidence.
I think if my metrics are good, I'm confident. If they're not where I need to be, I I wouldn't say I write myself off, but I go, oh, doesn't matter, my power's not very good. And then I can still perform really well. But almost it feels if my power numbers are good, I've got confidence, but with confidence comes a little bit of stress because I'm like, oh, I'm good. I need to be good. But take BWR Utah last year. It was at altitude. My power numbers were good, but I had no clue how I got altitude. I performed pretty well. So, but I think I performed well because there wasn't major stress. Um, so yeah, I think it's honestly 50-50. And what I'm really bad at is getting confidence through power numbers, but then going, oh, I'm really good. Do you know what I should do? I should keep racing. And then you dig yourself a hole. So there's almost overconfidence as well, which I think we see in my spotlight. Sometimes I need to go hold the horses rather than let's push through.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely thinking when we were talking earlier, I was thinking about sort of mode of travel. A mode of travel would be, what's that kind of team mindset you need to adopt? And I was thinking it feels like a prudent mode of travel would suit like this point in your preparations. It's not like if a new race pops in the calendar, something bright and shiny that you think, oh yeah, let's like no, it's like let's be thinking now about what can go wrong. And I did hear that a little bit when you were before we started recording, you were saying like, yeah, my numbers are really good. Like I'm worried they might be too good, so just like backed off a little bit because the last thing I want to do is peak too soon, on a race that's kind of a shakedown race, and then yeah. So yeah, that prudent mode of travel, early warning, threat detection, thinking about like what's going to go wrong might be quite helpful right now.
I think that also comes through learning and like I'm still young, but I've been racing for 8, 9 years. So I've had plenty of experience of going, wow, I'm really good. Let's push because how good could I be if I keep pushing? And often that's when you get sick. Even this morning, I woke up with a bit of a blocked nose. So I'm constantly on like kind of flight or fight, like, oh, shall I train? Shall I not train? And it's only through getting things wrong last year, being really, really good and then pushing through when I shouldn't have done,
Hmm.
that I've learned to now know, whoa, chill out because having 2 days off or 2 days right into the cafe will probably do you better than trying and failing to do a couple of days of intervals.
Yeah,
Or even nailing the intervals. Like maybe I nail them, but still it puts me in a hole in
yeah,
2 weeks or 2 months.
yeah.
It's the prudent, yeah, very, very prudent in the minute.
I mean, adaptability, it's a skill, right? I mean, like we learn to be adaptable, and one of the ways we learn is through experience. And I think that's what you're saying, that like, last year, the year before, now this that adaptability is sort of coming through as a feature of your preparation. What so and like continuing on that theme, so John and I, one of the things that John and I would talk to people about is people are generally quite clear on their goals. And especially when we're working with founders, they kind of tend to be optimistic in outlook, and there might be a tendency to go sort of chasing opportunity. And so one of the things that we would talk about is being really clear about what you're not doing. Like we've got a list of goals, but like we need a list of things that like we will not do this. How do you build that into your preparation?
I think it's something I've been really, really bad at, especially especially the last 2 years since leaving the road, but even when I was on the road, I've been awful at it because I like having multiple projects going on at once, and I don't like saying no. This year, it's been very much I say no to everything first, and then I go, actually, shall I or shan't I? But instead of in the past where yes has been my first answer, these days it's no. And sometimes that's been maybe to my detriment, but I think overall, ironically having the instead of like the yes theory or the yes approach, having the no approach for my kind of global overall goals has been a lot better. And I spoke to you guys just before Christmas about purposely leaving gaps in the calendar for opportunity to come to me rather than going filling everything and going searching for it. And there's two or three times in my season, like May, July, August, they're completely empty at the minute. Purposely so, because maybe something comes, but equally January, February this year, like off bike stuff, work, I didn't go chasing anything because I wanted flexibility and say just the new opportunities. And I think that's been a big shift in mindset of not chasing everything, which is scary, especially
Yeah,
when like it's related to income or whatever. But I think overall it's a good thing. It's a big change in mindset.
yeah, nice. Um, cool. It's been fun doing this kind of. It's not something we planned, but like the off season, I think it gives us an opportunity to sort of explore some stuff. And for me, it definitely related a lot of our chats back to the work that John and I would do helping people. But your first race is this weekend, so that is kind of the season. The season starts this coming weekend. So like, what are you hoping to learn this weekend?
Um, I'm hoping to learn that I'm really bloody good at the minute. To be honest, I do want to still be good. It's really funny because if this race wasn't 4 kilometers from my front door, I wouldn't be doing it. If it was anything more than a half an hour drive, I wouldn't go because just in general, I don't massively want to do it, to be honest, because I want to keep prepping for the first big one, which is in March. But because it's so close, it is almost rude not to. I'm hoping to learn I'm in a good place. I'm also hoping to learn that I'm not in the best place and that almost I'm at 90% and there's still that 10% left to go. And that sounds really weird going into a race hoping not to be perfect, but that's kind of it. And there's still a part of me which is looking at the course going, oh, you can go here, you can attack there. But I think the biggest thing I'm trying to remember is even if I win by 5 minutes both stages, which aren't just isn't going to happen, it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of the picture because it's not an important race for my goals this year, my contracts this year, whatever. So yeah, thinking hoping to learn there's a lot more to give, there's a lot more to come, but that I'm in a good place. Like I'm in a good place, but it can be better in a month when because
Yeah,
yes, race season does start 'cause it's my first race, but in my head, race season doesn't start until the second week of March when I'm in the US because that's when the race season starts, and I'm going. I want to perform at all of these.
yeah, nice. It's a great way to approach it.
It
Like,
kind of feels like doing pre-sales or something like that, like early
yeah,
orders. It's like, oh, where are you? Okay, cool. There's a little bit more to give.
yeah, nice. Great. Well, I hope then in that case, I hope you don't go too well this weekend, Joe.
It's really weird to say, isn't it? Because I've been training for like 2 months, and
I
but
hope
no,
you
I think
come
I'm not
off.
too good.
I hope you come off thinking, well, it was good, but wow, the ceiling. And like, I would have like some mental pictures for it. Like, where's the ceiling at? Like, I'd want to be still reaching up for the ceiling. There's still plenty of headroom. Uh,
It's funny. It's like this race is almost the perfect one to do because either you go well and it's like great, I've gone well, or you get off the bike and go, it's only February. I wasn't trying to be good anyway. So it's like a win-win.
Cool. Then, yeah, well, we're going to figure out what comes next, but maybe we just switch to a sort of post-race sort of debrief. And maybe the next one is like kind of, we'll do the same thing. We won't make it a full kind of race debrief. We'll make it a kind of half, because we think there's still way more to come. Thanks.
Perfect. Thanks, guys.